It is common at times in the Christian life to feel like we should be further along in our sanctification than we really are. Now, we generally know what a holy life looks like. We generally know what Christian maturity looks like, what a kind, hospitable, gracious, or patient person looks like. And yet, for some reason, possibly unbeknownst to us, we are still unable to reach a level of sanctification that we think we should really already be at. Whether by comparing ourselves to others of similar age or a similar station in life, or by growing frustrated with long-standing habitual sin in ourselves, there are times when we may grow weary with our progress in the marathon to glory. And at this point, there's one of two responses that we can have. The first is a sinful one. We can become content or complacent in our sanctification. I'm just not a patient person. I'm just not a morning person. I'm just not a people person. I know I have a short fuse. It's just the way I am. Whatever it is for you, it's easy for us to come to grips with a lack of change in our daily lives. It's hard to change. We are creatures of habit, but we are called to change. We are called to mortify our sin and to be conformed into the image of Christ. The second possible response is something that C.S. Lewis refers to as good pretending. We know there is such a thing as bad pretending, otherwise called hypocrisy, which in Lewis's words is when our pretense is a substitute for reality. Let me say that again. When our pretense is a substitute for reality, that is hypocrisy. But what Lewis commends to us is good pretending. This is where our pretense leads us up to the real thing. An example of this would be a young child pretending to be an adult firefighter. We don't tell the kid to knock it off because he's really not a firefighter. We don't tell him that he just needs to grow up. He's practicing for the future. And in doing so, he is in process of becoming that which he will later be. This is how progression in your sanctification happens. Romans 13:14 says that you are to put on Christ. Does this mean that when you do this, you will instantly reflect Christ in all of his holiness and righteousness? Not at all. Christ is your new uniform. Yes, it's way too big for you. Yes, you'll grow into it. You put on Christ in order to become like him. And so, put on Christ this week. Plan your days like Christ. Go to bed like Christ. Do your work like Christ. Browse the internet like Christ. And when you do this, you're not being a hypocrite. You're just showing that you want to be like your older brother.